This is a new high-tech Chinese EV, bringing the heat. These poor souls are slaving away, shipping all that throwaway free 99 Temu junk to your door. And these Chinese families are trying to enjoy a quiet picnic day out. There is a hidden misery in China, one that you're not supposed to see, and one that you simply cannot see unless you live for a particular amount of time in China. There's a very strange phenomenon which no one talks about. Expats that learn and become fluent in Chinese usually leave China. But expats that remain ignorant and never learn Chinese tend to stay long term. There are, of course, exceptions to this, but in general, this is always the case. And I'll tell you why. But first, unlike this random, self-immolating Chinese EV, today's sponsor makes quality goods. Father's Day is around the corner, and as usual, it's difficult to think of a gift. But this is where Exeter has your back. Not only do they have a fantastic line of high-tech, durable and stylish wallets. I mean, I've been using mine for years now and I can vouch for their quality. It's been through everything. But they also have a multitude of dad-centric products for sale, including their new tracker card that works on the Apple Find My network. It works exactly like an AirTag, but unlike an AirTag, it's rechargeable and fits anywhere you can put a card. Trust Exeter this Father's Day. They've got your back. Go to partner.exeter.com/SerpentZA. They've got a huge Father's Day sale of up to 40% off. So go to partner.exeter.com/SerpentZA. Oh, and don't forget to use the code SerpentZA for a massive discount. And now, back to the show. This is a difficult thing for me to say. But learning Chinese was a bit of a curse and a mistake, if I'm honest with you right now. It prevented me from developing intricate fantasies about the world around me as I traveled through China for the 14 years I lived there, and forced a harsh reality upon me. The positive part of learning Chinese is that I was able to form genuine connections with people there, many of whom outside the big cities had never met or spoken to a foreigner. The negative was that all my fantasies and illusions about China being a happy place were completely shattered. The majority of China is not happy. They just survive. Let me show you something. This is the line on Tianzi Road outside the US Embassy in Beijing on June 3rd. Pretty long. These people are all coming for visa interviews, standing for hours to get their chance at freedom. This is a daily sight. Here we see another line the next day on the 4th of June. And how about the next day? Here's the 5th of June. These constant queues of Chinese people trying to flee China are not only present in Beijing, but every US consulate around China, every single day of the year.
美国驻华使馆门前长长的队伍今天是5月29号，24年的5月29日上午，美国使馆门前长长的面前队伍。
You've no doubt heard about the tens of thousands of Chinese citizens illegally entering the USA every few months, through the southern border as well. Why is it that so many Chinese people are trying so hard to leave China? Well, the reality is that living in China is tough and quite miserable for most people. This is in stark contrast to the distorted facade that China projects to the outside world. Flashy skylines at night and high-speed rails. This flashy image is something that does little to change the fact that life is a constant struggle for most. And although most people will agree that the struggle is worth it if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that tunnel is now collapsing. So back to learning Chinese being a curse. A scene which I would rationalize in my mind to have deep meaning often turned out to be some hollow nonsense in reality once I could hear what people were saying and actually discussing. Signs that used to blend into the background suddenly shouted disturbing, condescending things at me, barking orders on how I must live my life, the things I have to think, and what opinions I'm not allowed to have. What would have seemed to be an unrelated friendly conversation amongst friends as I passed by turned into base gossip, as I could now understand people commenting about my appearance or saying stereotypical or derogatory things about foreigners. Once the mystery is gone, the facade lifted, China, unfortunately, was no longer appealing. Once you start to really get to know people and understand what's going on around you, you find that life in China is rather base. The pursuit of money being the most important focus, survival and money. It's not that people aren't genuine or nice, but conversation is stifled and limited, as anything other than basic day-to-day mundane topics are allowed to be discussed. You can't get into a spiritual or political conversation with people, and even close friends are very guarded as they fear reprisal from the government if they happen to air their true feelings. Once you get to know people, you see how difficult it is. This relentless struggle to stay afloat in China. The economy is in a massive downturn and all the optimism and hope has begun to ebb away. A harsh reality is dawning on an entire nation. And the reality is that the constant promises of the Chinese government are simply hot air. China isn't as powerful and unstoppable as they've been brainwashed into thinking. You can see rockets fly into space, new EVs being showcased and flashy skylines, but your life isn't improving. In fact, you're being forced to cut back on your spending. Your boss is asking you to work longer hours for less pay, or is delaying your salary, promising to pay you next month. Those fancy skylines aren't helping you pay your hopelessly high mortgage fee for the apartment that you don't even actually own, or those high medical bills that aren't covered by the government. And yes, this is a very strange misconception. The government doesn't pay for medical bills in China. You still have to pay out of pocket, and it's very expensive. If you earn $500 a year, which a huge amount of China earns only around $500 a year, a $20 doctor fee for a visit is a huge amount of your income, and it's something that most people can't afford. When cash is low, China becomes incredibly unfriendly, something I've experienced firsthand. China, according to statistics, is the least charitable country in the entire world. Low-income people in China are treated like dirt by the government and society alike. So what do you do if you're just the average citizen in China? Well, you eat bitter, or 吃苦, and work harder. You stave off poverty by sacrificing your health, well-being, and life in order to survive. The middle class is shrinking. The wealthy are all leaving. China is hiding a great misery. In China, you have to lie about reality. As you can see here, these streamers all broadcasting a false reality of happiness, fun, and prosperity. The reality is that they're all sucking on smog under a crowded bridge on the streets. You're not allowed to show poverty anymore in China. In fact, someone who filmed a rural wedding was arrested for posting it online because it was a poor rural wedding, and that went against the narrative that China has eradicated poverty. The harder they push the image of China being a superpower, the harder they censor poverty and the harsh realities of living in China, the more the misery grows. And this is why I make these videos, is to push this facade aside so people can see the reality of China. Thank you for watching. And if you'd like to see the real China and keep up to date with what's happening there, join us for the China Show every Friday. Stay awesome.